Hi, my Earth Rising signs, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am the Tarot Dragon, and on my channel, I do tarot card readings whenever I feel called to do them. So in today's reading, we're going to be looking at what is your wish and will it come true? So this reading is going to be broken up into three main chunks. The first section is looking at what your wish is. The second section is looking at when it will come true, or if it will come true, timing as well as if it's going to happen. And then with the tarot cards, we're going to look at just extra details, anything else you need to know, and we will also be looking at advice and additional messages from a homemade oracle deck. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to stick around, then feel free to do so. And again, this reading is specifically for Earth rising signs. So if you have a Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn rising, then this reading may be for you. But if you have an Earth, water, or no, I lied. If you have an air, fire, or water rising sign, then you can check out my channel for the reading for your collective. But yeah, so without further ado, let's take a look at what your wish is. And if this part doesn't resonate with you, then this probably isn't your reading, even if you do have an Earth rising sign. So just keep that in mind. To start, we have gathering around, the power of community. We have attachment. Oh, that already feels so out of place. I think I should put it here. So we have attachment. We have actor with performer. Interesting. We have family and tribe. And we have the rabbit. So what am I seeing here for this collective? Oh my, okay. You know what? I like how it was before. So your wish, first of all, it is a very earthy wish. I'm not surprised it's here. But one thing I want to note immediately is we have a 5 here, and we have the actor/performer, and this is an archetype that is, in my opinion, is often associated with the sign of Leo, and Leo is the 5th sign, so that sign could be significant for you. But your wish, I feel like I have to sit with this for a second. Partially because I can't figure out where I want these cards. I want to just... Interesting. So I already see some similar imagery here. We have this mask here, and we have masks here. Ah, funny, because I was talking about, Leo, and what are the odds there's a connection there. We have family and tribe, and then community. Interesting. So perhaps your wish is to feel a part of a community rather than simply... Like, I think you want to feel truly connected with a community and feel integral to that, not just like a person who takes up space, right? It's like you don't... Oh, you know how there's that thing where if there's a friend group of 3 and you're walking on a sidewalk and only 2 can fit, so then the third friend walks on the grass, and the one who walks on the grass is typically like the friend who doesn't feel as a part of the trio. I think you don't want to walk on the sidewalk, basically. And if you're going to walk on the sidewalk, you want everyone else to join you. I feel like you're someone who's very perceptive, and you might be a really funny, happy-go-lucky kind of person, but I think you're very perceptive, and I think you tend to be aware of people's moods when you're in a group, when you're around people. And you might be someone who's known for how you can meet people's needs, specifically how you can bring a lot of joy and light to a situation. But I think that this is an act you put on, because I almost feel this feeling where you're like, if I don't put this mask on, then people aren't gonna like me. Or if I don't act in a certain way, if I'm not this like funny, happy, like cheerful person, then people aren't gonna want me around. But I think you underestimate the beauty of your true personality, and I think you underestimate the power of true friendship. Like, true friends grow with you, and true friends want you to be yourself. I don't know if the friends you have right now or the family you have right now is like really mean or have like made fun of you for when you've shown your personality. I don't know, because this is your wish, not your current energy. This is what you're hoping for. And I think what you're hoping for is to feel a part of something, not just like there. Like, you don't want to just be in the class. You want to be someone who's an active participant, always answering questions, asking questions. You want to be a part of it. And I think you also want people to show up for you when you're going through tough times. But this attachment card here, like, I think you also want to be attached to a community from a place of goodness and like enjoyment, rather than a place of like, oh, if I don't hang out with them, I'm going to be alone. I think it's interesting that there's this like orangey color that kind of goes up to purple, which I assume if it kept going it'd be blue. And there's a lot of reddish orange here and then purple and blues. It's making me think of the sacral chakra and the crown, or like the sacral and then the third eye and the crown. I wonder, this is so, I feel like you're somebody who ends up taking on the role that's necessary. This kind of reminds me of the reading for the fire rising signs. But I think you end up taking on whatever role you feel like is necessary. So if you need to be the lighthearted one, you do that. If you need to be the provider, you do that. If you need to be very caring, you do that. Like, I think you feel like you really show up for people and you're able to help people out when they need something. But there's this like, because like the way that this rabbit is perked up is making me feel like you're very aware and perceptive of what people are going through and you show up for them. But I don't, like, you don't really feel like that feeling is reciprocated. And what's interesting is right now, I feel like for this collective, you do have friends and you do have family that you interact with often. It's just that the feeling of being cared for and being honored isn't there for you. Like, you don't feel like it's mutual. And so I think what you really wish is like you can take your mask off, you can let go of all of that fear, you can let go of the like, because I think you're attached in some ways to the different masks that you wear. And you want to be able to let go of that and to still be loved and respected. I think you're an awfully creative person as well. You could be somebody who pays for your friends' food a lot, and you probably give really good gifts. Because again, I just feel like you're not, like, you're creative and you're perceptive. You notice things, you notice what people need and when they need it. And if you play sports, for example, you might be someone who like never really gets, like, if you play basketball, for example, like you might be on the bench a lot, like you don't really get to play often. Or maybe like even if you are playing, it doesn't really feel like you're a part of the team. It just, you don't want to keep feeling like just someone who takes the empty seat. Like, you want to be invited. I didn't do this for the other piles, but for yours I'm feeling extra blocked from this. So I want to pull a couple of cards to give me some clarification on this. Spirit, can I get a clarifier for this, for what is the wish that earth rising signs have? What is this wish that we're talking about for the earth rising signs? Oh my. What is this wish for the Four of Swords? What is the, oh my goodness, what is this wish for the earth rising signs? Okay. Page of Swords, interesting. So lots of air energy. Back of the deck is the Wheel of Fortune. So the Four of Swords and the Page of Swords. Yeah, you want to put the act to a rest. Like, oh, this is really interesting. So you might be someone who always has to reach out first to your friends and family, or else they almost kind of forget about you. So yeah, it's kind of like if your friends are making plans, they might not invite you until the last minute, but you feel like the only reason they're inviting you is because like this is like, I don't know, like maybe you ran into one of them on your way to go somewhere, and then they saw you and they're like, oh, maybe we should invite them. It's that kind of feeling where you feel like you're not being invited because people actually want you around. You feel like you're being invited as like out of courtesy almost. And I feel like you're like, people might not reach out to you first, like you're the one who always has to reach out. It's like you're acting, you're almost doing more than you normally would in a connection because you're trying to play both roles. You're playing your own role in the connection and the other person's. You're doing a lot of work here, and I feel like you're the kind of person who constantly has to reach out first, and so it's almost like there's no rest for you in these connections. Like if you don't reach out first, people don't talk to you. Perhaps you've done that thing where you like sometimes people like you maybe you didn't reach out to your friends for like a week or something, and they never texted, they never reached out, they kind of weren't around. There's this feeling of like you have to, like you find yourself constantly putting in so much work in these connections just to maintain them, just to be at the bare minimum. And because you're playing both roles, it no longer feels natural. It feels like you're putting on an act. It feels like you're not being yourself. um and that's really challenging for you, I think. um but again, like you don't really complain about it, I think. And so um I think that people don't really, maybe they don't know, but I also kind of feel like maybe they do. But yeah, I think like you genuinely just wish that like people would reciprocate, that it wasn't like you having to kind of fight your way into a connection, but rather like people meet you where you're at. Or like you do work and they do work. And I think you want to take this mask off and just be you. But I also feel like to some degree you really attached yourself to this mask. I think that there might be fear around taking this mask off, being yourself, and especially like you might be afraid to see what's going to happen if you stop texting your friends first, if you stop being the one to initiate hangouts, to plan things. I think you're scared to see like what's going to happen, if they're going to stick around, if they're going to leave. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I want to get now into will this wish of yours come true? This wish to create a more reciprocal group of friends or family. Will this come true for my earth rising signs? So to start, we have Grand Trine with blessings. That's a beautiful sign for you. We have grounding. We have Akasha, your guidance is divinely guided. This needs to be like this. Yes, ma'am. All right. We have three witchy sisters. Oop, the power of three, which look at that. There's a 3 right there. Okay, and these cards we'll look at later for timing. So to start, what are we looking at here? Well, for you, Earth Risings, for you, this is actually the most clear one. Immediately, yes, your wish is coming true. This is like the other piles were kind of like, yeah, if you do X, Y, and Z, or like, yeah, it'll come true, but kind of in like a weird way. For you, to me, this is very clear. Yes, it'll happen. Oh my gosh. Wow. Trine, which is 3, 3, 3. That's crazy. Were there any other 3s here? Oh, no, I don't think so. That's really weird. Okay. So 3s, it could be significant. Maybe, what is the 3rd month? The 3rd month is March. So maybe you're watching this in March. Maybe, the 3rd of a particular month. Actually, so when I'm filming this, it's June 2nd. And on June 3rd, there is a full moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a 9th sign. Maybe there's something you want to do on this full moon that could be helpful for you. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which, you know, brings blessing. So maybe that's a really important time for you. I mean, if you're watching this when I put it out there, but it is a timeless reading. So whenever you're watching it is important. But I do think 333 is a significant synchronicity for you. Anyway, so will your wish come true? Yeah, absolutely. But really the key factor for you is like, I think you really, really, really would benefit from a daily grounding practice, especially something like meditation, but even something like taking off your shoes and your socks and like planting your feet on the ground and like really being present in that moment. Or maybe one thing that I find very grounding is like, even if you have your shoes on, like just kind of like almost like pushing your feet into the ground, not literally into the cement, for example, but like planting them firm on the ground. You can lay on your back on the ground. That's another great one. You could do anything to ground really, but I think the reason why you need to is because I feel like there's a lot of anxiety within this pile. You are like a person who gets very stressed when you think about this wish of yours, because I feel like it's something you get constant reminders about. It doesn't really leave your mind, because whenever you're around people, and you or whenever you want to reach out to somebody, or whenever you're hanging out with somebody, in the back of your mind there's that thought of like, dang, like, do they even really like me? Are these even real friends? Like, if I didn't reach out first, like, would they have even invited me? There's just these constant fears playing in your mind. And honestly, I feel like you might be right about some of the feelings that you're getting about these people, especially if you're not reaching out to these people and they're not texting you ever. Sometimes people get busy, yeah, but if you feel all the time that you're around somebody that they're not really for you, then maybe they're not for you. It'll depend for all of you, honestly. It could, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard to know. Sometimes people have different texting styles, or maybe they are busy or preoccupied with other things. But I feel like you get a lot of gut feelings about people. You just don't always follow them, because there's fear that if you do follow them, you'll lose those friends, or you'll lose contact with those family members, and then you'll be alone. I think there's a big fear here about being alone. But I feel like, oh, interesting. Even when I was talking earlier about the trio, the three friends, and one has to walk on the side. So maybe that really was significant for you. Maybe you are in a trio, and one of you is like you is not really in the trio. But notably, your eyes are open and the other two have their eyes closed. And so I feel like your guys are saying the other people around you don't need to understand. Like, if you try to explain your perspective to one of your friends and they don't quite get it, it might be because they can't. And this is hard to understand unless you've like experienced this, but sometimes when you're in a mindset, like, you really can't understand somebody else's perspective, because it is just so contradictory to what you believe or what you think. But when you grow out of that mindset, it's so much easier to see the other person's perspective, right? But when you're still in it, it's so hard. It's like if somebody has never seen the color green, it would be like trying to explain that to them and to prove to them that the color green exists, like, you would sound ridiculous. The same is true, I think, with your friends. If you try to explain to them, like, hey, you only reach out to me if you had just seen me that day, like, if you never reach out first, or if you said like, oh, whenever we're walking on the sidewalk, I have to be on the grass, or whatever it is, I feel like they wouldn't get it, or at least they wouldn't act like they get it, because part of me feels like you might actually have some people in your circle that aren't really for you. And I think the more that you ground yourself as well, the more that you can ease your nerves and learn how to cope with anxious feelings, anxious thoughts, the easier it'll be to trust your intuition, because you will feel less unsafe. You'll learn how to feel safe in your own skin, which will help you understand what your intuition feels like, one, and be able to trust it. But two, I feel like it'll give you more conviction when it comes to speaking up for yourself, because I feel like no matter what, like, the stars will align for you, so to speak, and good things will happen. And I think you, especially considering how awesome and fun and happy and perceptive you are, like, you are a really great friend. It's just that it's not being reciprocated. So I think that the more that you can kind of put yourself out there and step away from people who don't really show up for you, who don't care so much about you, the more that you can step away from them and move toward new people, I feel like things are very easily going to turn around for you. Because the problem here isn't really you isolating yourself, or you being a bad friend or something. The problem is that you're around people who don't see your truest self and who don't value you enough to show up. So let's see timing. When will this wish come true? So, wow, conclusions are within reach. Full moon eclipse. Okay. The full moon that's happening tonight or tomorrow is not a full moon eclipse, but it is a full moon. And then we have your dreams need a practical plan. Full moon in Taurus. Interesting. This is very spot on. Your dreams need a practical plan. You are also a Taurus. So, oh, you're not a Taurus. I don't know why I said that. You might be, actually. You might have a Taurus rising, because this is Earth risings. Okay. Conclusions are within reach. So this is the beginning timestamp, and this is the last one. You have a full moon for both, which I think is interesting. So I feel like the beginning timestamp is actually the end of a connection in your life. You might find that your wish starts to come true as these old connections find their way out. For some of you, you could literally be relocating or graduating or switching jobs. Like you might be having a pretty big life event that is literally moving you away from these people so you don't have to see them as much. Or it could be that like feelings are bubbling to the surface and you can no longer hold back how you feel, or maybe they can no longer hold back what they feel, because it's possible that maybe the people you're around have a lot of opinions about you too, but they haven't been saying them. And because full moons already are just really intense, but if it's an eclipse as well, it's like, oh my gosh, like everything is bubbling to the surface and you can't really control it. I mean, you can't control an eclipse, or the energy of an eclipse. It's, you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to try to manifest or do anything. You just want to kind of let it happen. So I feel like naturally, just like naturally the stars are aligning for you and this wish is coming true, there are naturally things that are going to be ending here. These connections are going to be, they're going to become insufferable. That's the word that I'm thinking of. It's like, it's becoming stuffy. Like you can no longer pretend. Your eyes are wide open. You can't close them anymore. And you're just over, I think you're going to get sick of being around people who don't uplift you. And with your dreams need a practical plan, with how this situation is kind of ending or how the timing ends, I think you're going to be it's ending the moment that you start to and you're kind of already doing this, honestly. Or I think it's naturally going to happen, but the moment that you start taking what's inside and putting it out. So in terms of making, like going out, being social, making new friends, meeting people, showing people your true personality, setting boundaries, speaking up for yourself, the more that you can take those internal feelings, beliefs, ideas, and externalize them and show people these things, I think that's when you're going to kind of solidify this wish in your life, because you're no longer just thinking about how sad you feel in these connections. You're no longer just thinking about how you feel like people don't really like you, but you're expressing these things, and you're cutting people out that aren't good for you and opening yourself up to connections that are good. That's really awesome. And the bull also does not, like, which is the symbol of Taurus. The bull is a very, like the bull is chill unless it's provoked, you know? It's when you provoke a bull, it'll go crazy and it'll destroy you, but it's generally a pretty calm animal. That's the same thing with the energy of Taurus. Like Taurus is a very chill, very collected, very grounded until it's provoked to the point where it literally can't hold back. So perhaps these are together then. You know, maybe these are energies that are kind of going together, because when I talked about this card here, full moon eclipse, I talked about how it was like things are getting so heated that you can't avoid them anymore, and that's what's sort of resulting in you being like, nah, like these friends, they're not it, like I can't do this anymore, or these family members, I just can't do this anymore. But the same is kind of true with this card. It is, so I almost feel like this could either be a really short time period for when this wish comes true, or it could be that like it begins and ends in kind of the same way, or it's like the same energy throughout, which is a little different from some of the other piles. I do think you're gonna learn the truth also about what's going on with the people in your life. I feel like you probably are gonna hear, it might not be in the most palatable way, like in the most polite way, but I feel like you might find yourself almost going off on people, and same with them. Like they might start like almost gaslighting you or making you sound crazy for identifying all these things that make you feel like you're not really a part of this friend group or a part of this family or a part of this whatever social group it is. Because it seems like a lot is being said and there's a lot of passion, a lot of like feelings, emotion, like it feels strong. And it's on both sides. Like you're fed up and then they're fed up too, which is interesting because I don't really know what their deal is or who these people are. Like I'm not quite sure about them, but I think for you, like you're getting to a point where it's like, I literally cannot stand being in these connections. I deserve better. And maybe what this is for you, maybe the way that this starts is you finally speak up to maybe one of your friends or to your friend group, or to a family member, and you tell them like, hey, I've been feeling like this and this, or every time you guys act in this way, you know, it makes me feel like this, you know, you're expressing yourself, and perhaps their response to you is what sets this off. Maybe they're like, oh my gosh, you're always complaining, or like, oh my god, like you're so dramatic, whatever. There might be a response that just is, it's just not what you were expecting to hear, and I think it adds fuel to the fire, and that could be what sets this off. But it is answering something, though. It's answering a question for you. The question of, do these people like me? Are they willing to show up for me? Are they willing to change if it means that I'll feel more safe in these connections? And I think you'll find that for some of these people, the answer is no, they are not willing to do those things. Which is really sad. And also there's a positive to this, which is that I think it'll be easier for you to move on from these connections, or at least to cut contact, because now you know how they feel and you'll be able to move on to connections that serve you better. I do want to be clear though, like the people that I'm talking about here are people that you have felt some type of way about for a long time, people that you don't really feel safe with. They might make you feel really anxious. You constantly can't tell what their intentions are. You don't know if they really like you. Like these are people that I think have caused you a lot of stress, and you never quite feel safe in their presence. In fact, I think you feel very unsafe in their presence. But yeah, okay. I say that because I don't want you to like, I think you'll know. If this is about one person or multiple people, I think you will know. This is one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly who she's talking about, type of thing. Okay, so I'm gonna reshuffle these because I used a card. How are we gonna shuffle with these nails? Well, we'll find a way. So we're gonna use the tarot cards now. Just, I don't think I'm gonna pull that many cards. I just kind of want, maybe, let me just shuffle this. A few more cards for you about like, well, I'm gonna ask specific questions. So first, Spirit, what do you want this collective to know about this wish? What, oh my, I said one card. What else do you want this collective to know about this wish? What else do you want this collective to know about this wish? Okay, the Five of Wands, yeah. What your guides want you to know is that this is going to lead to conflict within your connections, but don't be afraid of that, because this is something that needs to happen. These are connections that I feel like, oh, actually, let me also see, Spirit, who are these people that this collective feels uncomfortable around? Who are these family members or these friends? Who are they? So we have the Hanged Man and we have the Knight of Cups, but notably it did come out in reverse, and I don't think I have any reverse cards in here, so I feel like that was, I don't know when it flipped over, but that's for you for sure, in reverse. So yeah, the reason why there's conflict here is the friends that you currently have, or the family members you currently have, are not the kinds of people who want to have difficult conversations with one another. They might be the kind of people who want to gossip about others, talk behind people's backs, but they sure as hell don't want to have a mature, calm conversation about what's not working out between the two of you. There's purple flowers on both of these cards, and that's interesting. And so I feel like conflict is bound to happen whenever you express to them face to face that you're having an issue. It's like, I think these are the kinds of people who feel like when you address a problem with them, they take it as like a really strong attack on their ego, because they start to feel helpless. But with this Knight of Cups in reverse, I think one thing your guys want you to know is that these people that we're talking about are very emotionally immature. And I don't think that they can offer you emotional security and emotional safety, because I don't even think they can give it to themselves. I feel like these are people who maybe you feel like have been stagnant almost in their life. Maybe not their entire life, but maybe in the time that you've known them, it just sort of feels like they haven't grown emotionally or spiritually, and they're kind of in the same place that they've always been. Even if their career has grown, or maybe they've changed the way that they look, it seems like internally they're the same kind of person. And so maybe you really resonated with these folks at some point, but then as you grew up, you realize this doesn't really work for me anymore. Because like with this Knight of Cups in reverse, this is making me think that they want to receive a lot of emotional validation. They want to receive a lot of love, a lot of care and affection, but they can't give it to anybody else. And if they do give it to anybody else, I feel like they give it to the wrong kinds of people. And so I feel like conflict is bound to happen, right? It's kind of like, if you bring this up to them, which you should, because you deserve to get answers, and to potentially get your needs met, because who knows, maybe the energy will change and these folks will be very open to hearing you out and wanting to work with you. But at the time that you're finding this reading, there definitely will be conflict between you and the people you're speaking up to, because they take it as an attack on themselves, and they feel like if you bring up something that they're doing, like if you bring up a problem within the connection between the two of you, it's like almost, it's like offending them. Like, how dare you say that? I'm such a good friend. I'm so this, I'm so that. But really, I think they're being defensive because they know deep down that they are mistreating you, that they aren't emotionally available. They are too immature to really show up. I'm really willing to bet that these are very gossipy people. There's also a number 12 here on this Knight of Cups, and the Hanged Man is also number 12. So 12 could be a significant number, or 21, or 1212. 12 reduces to 3. 12, okay, so maybe it's another 3 thing. Okay. Spirit, what else do you want this collective to know about making their wish come true? What else can this collective do to assure that their wish comes true? What else can this collective of Earth rising signs do, the Hierophant, to assure that their wish comes true? What else can Earth rising signs do to assure that their wish comes true, Spirit? We're going to get one more. The Four of Wands. Let's get one more. Seven of Swords. Wow. So with the Hierophant, we have Taurus energy again. So I don't know if everybody here is just a Taurus rising or what, because we've had Taurus specifically twice. And we have 2 5s, so there's double 5s again. Earlier we had that 5. So what you can do to ensure that this wish comes true, I think you should definitely reconsider your values around relationships and what friendship actually means to you, okay? In fact, I feel like you should, because I think that part of the issue here might be that you might be making your friends through your school. Like, you might make a lot of friends at school, you might make a lot of friends through your church, through your, like your, maybe you have like a cultural center or something where you make friends. Like there's some sort of institution that you're a part of that is how you meet your friends, and that, or maybe this is just talking about the institution of family, like maybe this is referring to your family. But I almost feel like that's really limiting you and your options in friends. Like maybe you're from a small town and it's really hard for you to meet new people, or maybe you're like, this is so specific, but you might be from a state like Texas and you're going to school in New York. So like the people that you're around in New York are very different than who you're around in Texas or something, because you're going to like a place that's so different and far away from where you live. But I actually feel like separating yourself physically, even for a little bit, or maybe just emotionally and mentally separating yourself from the collective of people that you're constantly around, might actually be really useful for you. Because with the Four of Wands, I think you need a break from either, and break could mean anything, like 2 days, a month, a year. It could just be like 10 minutes. It could be anything, right? Your life is, I don't know. It could be anything really. But with the Four of Wands, I think you need a break of some kind, from the people that you're spending a lot of time around. And maybe this is a break you need to take before you have this conversation with them, where you speak up and tell them like, hey, this is what's not working for me. Because sometimes when we're around people too much, like we can kind of become entangled with them, and it's hard to really identify how we truly feel because we've just spent so much time with them. So I feel like if you're able to take time away and reflect on what it is that's truly bothering you, how you feel, and if you can find the words to explain that, I feel like you can then come back to the conversation and speak up for yourself in a way that's authentic. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to self-sabotage with the Seven of Swords. We don't want to end up only saying a part of how we feel because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to end up somehow being manipulated into staying in this friendship, or manipulated into thinking that we're being crazy for speaking up. Like, I think you have a lot to say and you have a lot of feelings here, but you might be too enmeshed with these people to see just how much these connections are doing a number on you. And I also think too, though, with the Hierophant and the Four of Wands, like if you take time away, especially if you take time and go do something fun and like carefree and meet new people, if like you can, sometimes like social anxiety can make that hard and can kind of make the situation worse. But if you can like do something that brings you around other people, either new people or people that you truly do feel comfortable with, I feel like it'll remind you what connections are supposed to feel like. It'll remind you that you're not supposed to feel so suffocated and stuffy and alone and miserable in connections. You're supposed to feel uplifted and supported and stable and loved. And so I think a big part of this is rethinking what friendship means to you and what you're willing to let go of, as well as what you're willing to open up to in order to create these kinds of really open, beautiful connections with people. Because all that you want is people around you that are like for you, that support you, that love you, and you want to support and love them. But it seems like the connections you have now are just, or at least some of them are really, really hard for you to be around, to deal with. So, oh my, okay, let's move on now to some homemade messages from my homemade oracle deck. We are going to begin by looking at this one. This one is about love and relationships, and then we're going to probably use the blue and white deck, which has cards that are like general messages. The other deck is about career and finance, and that doesn't really make sense in this reading, so we're going to start off with this. So, Spirit, what else do you want to say to Earth rising signs about this wish of theirs? What else do you want to... Okay, that's plenty. So... we have, I hate when we argue. Interesting. So this can honestly be from your perspective or the other person's perspective or the other people's perspective. Because to be honest, I feel like the people that you're having trouble with might not be fully aware of just how difficult or how like challenging it is to be friends with them. But I also feel like I feel like they're really enmeshed in maybe like a very emotionally immature mindset, and so it's hard for them to realize just how toxic they might be treating you. So they might say things like, "Oh, like I hate when we argue, I hate when we have conflict." But again, it's because they don't recognize that conflict sometimes needs to happen so that both sides can be heard and a resolution can be reached. Okay. We also have heal your codependency. You should definitely look into codependency as well as people pleasing, and see if there's something there that resonates with you, because I did see themes of that in this pile. We also have I pray for this connection. As soon as I said this, I thought of a mother figure. So maybe if you have a problem with a mother figure in your life or maternal figure, they could be praying for you and their connection. Please take care of yourself. Ending things was/is for the best. Yeah, I do think that might be the case for some of those folks where it's just not really working. Give me some time to think things through. Yeah, this kind of confirms what I said earlier about how taking a break might be really helpful for you. So for those of you who follow like a semester system in the US, you might be on summer break right now. So maybe this could be your break. LOL, a 3-month break, to see just how you feel when you're away from these folks and see if these are still connections you want to be a part of. For others, like if you live with these people, like if they're roommates, if this is family, if you can, maybe like book a hotel for a couple nights or maybe stay with a friend or another relative and just see how you feel when you're not around these people. If you're happier, and also if you can be around people that you just love, like you love, that are just awesome, that make you feel great, notice how you feel when you're with them versus the people who are kind of draining your energy, and see what is the difference. How do you act, and how is it different than how you act around the other people? And then how do those other people act, when you compare the two? And then let's get some general messages as well, Spirit. What else do you want to say to Earth rising signs regarding this wish of theirs? Oh my. What else do you want to say to Earth rising signs regarding this wish? Okay. So to start, we have you know your situation better than any reader. Yeah. I put this card here because I know one for sure that I could never channel everybody's exact situation perfectly, but I also noticed that it comes out mostly in the readings where I feel like I'm not quite getting it like down. So if there are parts of this that just don't resonate or you feel like it's flip-flopped or something, you know your situation better than me, okay? I am still human. So we also have mental health. So your mental health is probably being eroded a little bit by these connections. And that's definitely something that you should take into consideration when deciding whether you want to remain friends with these people. We have therapy or support groups. So maybe, I mean, these go hand in hand. So perhaps going to therapy or being a part of some kind of support group would be really helpful for you. We have practicing affirmations out loud. Yeah, I do think this would be really helpful because you're a really cool person, and I think you might not see that very much. Like, you might not see how awesome you are. So I feel like saying affirmations or other ways to boost your self-esteem and your morale would be really good for you. We have Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. Ah, I love this. I love this because I do think there's a lot for you to learn from these connections, especially with codependency, with your mental health, with your value around friendship. There's a lot to learn here. So maybe this song can be like your motto, or maybe make your own Thank You Next song, like where you list the people and you say like what you're grateful for, because I feel like these connections can show you a lot about yourself if you are open to learning those lessons. Then we have read a book on spirituality or self-care. Now, this is totally up to you, but if you've never read any books about spirituality or self-care and there is one or two that are calling out to you, I say go for it. It might teach you a lot about yourself and about your perspective. One that I will always recommend because it literally changed my life is The Untethered Soul. It's really good. There are some chapters that are more like spiritual, but then honestly a lot of it is pretty practical. And it was just phenomenal. It's an incredible book. I think the author is Michael A. Singer, but I could be wrong. But yes, The Untethered Soul, if that is something you want to look into. So, Earth Rising signs, I'm going to be leaving your reading here. Thank you so much for watching this reading all the way through, if you did, which you would have if you're hearing this right now, unless you skipped ahead, which is, that's okay too, I guess. Yeah, if you enjoyed this reading and it resonated with you and you want to support me and my channel, I would love if you could leave a like on this video, a comment down below telling me how this reading resonated with you, or subscribing to my channel. And I hope that you gain some perspective, clarity, comfort, guidance from this reading. And I hope that I can see you again on my channel here soon. So, bye!